Hero's Shadow by Felix Tappy. Read to you by Spirits Don't Cry. Spirit. Chapter 3. Calm down. There are no warnings for this chapter. To be honest, no matter how cool it looks in movies, using a parachute is never fun. However, when you are over 2,000 feet up in the sky in a burning helicopter with an untrained villain for a pilot and a very, very large bomb, you take what you can get. Has Izuku ever mentioned how much he hates explosives? At least the ones that are about to blow him to little bits and pieces on live television. Izuku has managed to get in over his head once again by following a group of moron thieves. The very same group his client warned him about a few days prior. They said it would be easy. He'd go in there, set the place on fire because he's an arsonist at heart, collect the drugs, and end up saving the day for the third time in as many days. But the world hates Izuku. He can't ever do things the easy way. These so-called moron thieves ended up being major gang leaders that Izuku put in prison a couple of years back. So you can imagine his surprise when he caught sight of their faces inside a base with a lot of weapons, a lot of drugs, and a fucking helicopter. Izuku would have been more excited had one of the henchmen not clocked him in the knees with a crowbar right after his entry. Now he has a limp. Fucking superb, you funky little goon. I didn't even see you coming. And truly, Izuku never planned on getting in said helicopter. But when Mr. Tiny got in it with an armful of guns and syringes, what was he supposed to do? Oh, yeah, he could have called Tsukauchi, saying as he got his phone number from the files he stole a week before now, but it's a Thursday evening, and Izuku knows a detective only works night shifts on certain days of the week. He probably wouldn't be able to do much of anything since he's off duty right now. Plus, Izuku couldn't just let them get away. What kind of wanted vigilante would he be if he didn't aggravate the heroes further by doing their jobs better than them? And so, Izuku clung to the landing skids under the helicopter just as it lifted into the sky. In hindsight, Izuku should have considered what he planned to do after dealing with all the bad guys, given the fact that he can't actually fly a helicopter. But it just turns out that luck is on his side today. He doesn't have to worry about that since Mr. Tiny set off the bomb before Izuku actually took him out. Who puts explosives in a helicopter? Isn't that, illegal? So here, Izuku is, dangling from the bottom of a spiraling aircraft. Izuku curses to himself. He's going to be late for dinner at Kachan's house, just like he was last week, the day after being captured by Eraserhead. If he doesn't get killed jumping out of this aircraft, Kachan will certainly do the job himself. As the timer ticks to 15 seconds, Izuku decides he'd much rather die by his friend than face the impending explosion. Giving a wave to the news helicopter a few hundred yards out, Izuku lets go of the landing skids with a screech. He spreads out his arms and legs to keep himself from tumbling through the air like a rabid banshee. He's done that before and won't do it again. He's learned from his mistakes. Thank you very much. The boy would smile if not for the wind whipping at his face and hood. Izuku has always enjoyed jumping from high places. The feeling is exhilarating. It fills his lungs with fresh air and makes his stomach do backflips. It always leaves him giddy in the end. This type of jump, however, is a little higher than he usually prefers. But it's fine. He has a parachute, so everything is fine. He balances himself out well as he plummets, and after deciding that he's a safe distance away from the bomb, he flips onto his back and presses the button under his left armpit. Nothing happens. Izuku's heart leaps into his throat, his thoughts coming to a screeching halt. I didn't reinstall the parachute from last month. If there's an opening for a modern version of that old movie, Dumb and Dumber, Izuku needs to audition. The helicopter explodes above him in a blinding display of heat and fire. But Izuku can't bring himself to pay attention to it because, fuck, those buildings are getting awfully close. He's going to die. But he can't, not before dinner. Kachan will kill him. Izuku doesn't realize he's screaming until he feels his voice give out from the strain. He drops like a rock past a skyscraper's roof and sees his reflection in the glass, his rabbit costume a dark contrast to the blue sky around him. He watches in horror as he sails closer to the top of another building. Okay, I can do this. There's no telling who's recording. The media is probably capturing these fateful moments right now, so he can't afford to use one of his more flashy quirks. Not that they'd help much in the situation. He can use Deflect to break his fall, but at the rate he's plummeting, the transparent shield would probably shatter upon impact, killing him instantly. It's not strong enough to withstand that much force. That's what I get for refusing to train with it. The only other quirk he can use is Pull, and even then, the only thing he can do is make himself fly into the side of one of the buildings. Concrete is too heavy for him to move, so instead of the building coming towards him, he'll be going towards it. It's basic physics, and it should work. Izuku just needs to wait a little longer for one of the lower floors. If he does it a little too early, a hero might come after him and trap him inside one of the higher levels. The closer he is to the ground, to an exit, the better. Izuku sails past the roof of a smaller hotel and juts out his arm desperately, letting Pull manifest in his palm. The momentum is far too much, the distance far too wide, and Izuku's arm very nearly rips out of its socket as he goes flying towards the side of the building. This is gonna hurt. In a matter of seconds, he crashes through the window, yelping in pain as his injured leg and arm are jostled again. He's on a lower level, the polished tile of the hotel room covered in broken glass. The boy goes sprawling against it, barely registering the screaming to his right. He looks up and is greeted to the sight of a young girl on one of the couches, staring at him and screeching. She's clutching a small dog, who's currently barking and wriggling to get out of her grasp and probably bite Izuku. Oops. Time to go. Izuku struggles to get to his feet, holding his hands up in surrender, before stumbling to the door past the girl. He really is trying to think, but his body is still considerably numb.
I'm sorry,
he tries, though she most likely doesn't hear him over her own strangled noises.
I'm leaving. It's alright.
He opens the door with a little too much force, nearly ripping it off its hinges, and proceeds to faceplant into the hallway wall. He finds his way to the stairs and runs. That went better than I thought it would. Izuku is regrettably a little over an hour late. He had to stabilize his knee and make sure to cover up any bruises and cuts on his face and body from the fight. His rabbit costume is a little torn, but it'll be alright. A little wash is all it needs. All in all, the mission was a success. The heroes have probably searched the base and tied up any loose ends, and it seems the whole of Japan knows what Rabbit did today. Izuku has earned a bit more cash too, so that's always a plus. He has to buy more fabric for his costume to patch up the tears. But for now, the boy steps up to the door in front of him before he ends up losing his courage. Kacchan is very serious about schedules. If Izuku is being honest though, he doesn't think he deserves the punch to the gut he receives in greeting when Kacchan swings open the door before the boy can even get the chance to knock.
Shitty nerd,
the blonde roars, leaping at him like a feral cat. You're fucking late again! Izuku yelps, falling to the ground with Kacchan standing over him. That's not my fault. I told you I might be a little late. Kacchan yanks him up by the front of his shirt, dragging him inside and slamming the door shut.
That was last week, you dick.
You know that goes for every time, Kacchan. I've told you this. The explosive teen chuffs in irritation.
Whatever, nerd. You're not the only one who had to listen to the old hag bitch about you being in trouble again. You're lucky she didn't call the police to report your fucking ass missing.
Izuku frowns to himself as his friend shoves him onto the couch. I thought you can't report someone missing unless it's been 24 hours. That's a myth, dumbass. The blonde plops down next to him, flicking through channels on the TV faster than Izuku can keep up.
Now shut the hell up.
Dinner's almost ready. Izuku just rolls his eyes, biting back his own retort. He won't admit it to anyone, but the fight, as quick as it was, wore him out. His knee is getting on his nerves. He now has a newfound reason to hate crowbars. Another voice cuts in, sounding from the top of the stairs behind him.
Oi, what's with the yelling, Brad? I thought I told you to shut up.
Bakugous Mitsuki pokes her head around the corner and her face immediately lights up upon seeing Izuku on the couch. She starts down the stairs with a smile.
Oh, hun, you're finally here. I was just starting to get worried about you. Where have you been?
Izuku jumps to his feet and bows quickly, ignoring the complaints he gets from his friend about standing in front of the TV. Sorry, Auntie, I didn't mean to worry you. I got a little distracted by a villain fight. That's all, but I promise I'm fine. Izuku chooses to ignore Kachan's quiet. That's a shitty lie. Because he's technically not lying. It was a villain fight, and he did get distracted. The woman, thankfully, doesn't hear her son, and she wraps Izuku up in a tight hug, picking him up and swinging him from side to side in typical Bakugous fashion. That's alright, kiddo. You came just in time. The food will be ready in a few. She drops him and turns to her son with a glare. Your father has a migraine, brat, so be quiet.
How is that my problem?
Kachan snaps, palms cackling.
He's always feeling shitty.
Izuku just sighs as the mother and son duo go at it again, loud enough to wake up the entire neighborhood. He's used to this in a sense. That's just how the dynamic is in this house. He'd be lying if he says he doesn't like it. Izuku instead goes into the kitchen to try and help with dinner. He may not cook a lot nowadays, partially because he doesn't have a lot of money for food, and partially because he's too lazy, but he does know his way around the kitchen. He loves to cook. Being alone for the better part of his life, Izuku had to find some ways to pass the time without school or family, and cooking, he found quickly, is a sure way to keep himself occupied. Living on your own for years kind of forces you to learn how to take care of yourself. And besides, he likes to cook because it allows him to start fires. It looks like Mitsuki is making katsudon tonight, if the pork and eggs on the counter are anything to go by. Izuku feels his stomach rumble. That's his favorite meal, and the entire Bakugo family knows it. I don't deserve you, Auntie. It looks like the only thing that needs to be done is to finish the rice. That's easy. Izuku hums a tune to himself as he takes out plates and sets the table. He's done this often enough for it to feel like second nature. The Bakugos invite him over once a week, usually every Thursday night for dinner or breakfast. They're the only people he'd ever consider to be his family. Though that's yet another thing he won't admit to anyone else. If someone finds out about his relationship with them, if they see how he looks at them whenever they let him come over, everything will be screwed. If father finds out, we'll all end up dead. Izuku spreads the rice over the plates and prepares to divvy up the food. The smell makes his mouth water, and the boy forces himself not to scarf everything down. All that ass-kicking has left him starved, so sue him for literally salivating. A heavy hand lands on his shoulder, and Izuku nearly jumps out of his skin when Kachan scoffs right beside his ear.
You hungry, nerd?
Izuku flushes, not realizing he was staring so intently at the food on the table. Shut up! It's been a long day. The smirk drops off his friend's face, being replaced with something more suspicious. Izuku tries to push down his sudden nervousness. Kachan crosses his arms.
So, where were you? Really? And don't fucking lie to me. You've gotten caught up in fights loads of times, but you've never been this late before.
I told you, Kachan,
Then fucking tell me again!
His palms cackle dangerously, but Izuku doesn't flinch. He knows the other boy would never hurt him like that.
I don't have time for your shitty excuses, and don't be stupid enough to think I didn't notice how fucked up your leg is.
Izuku bites his lip, eyes flickering towards the doorway. I'll tell you later. Auntie might come down any second. She's trying to get Dad out of bed,
so she won't be back for a while. Now spill it before I blow your ass up.
Too late, Izuku thinks to himself. I already had my ass blown up today. It must be quite famous for everyone to want a piece of it. You know, Izuku says instead, it almost sounds like you care, Kachan. Explosions pop from the boy's palm, so Izuku backtracks quickly. Okay, I'll tell you, just give me a second. Kachan leans back with a scowl. Better be a good reason for murdering me. Finishing up with setting the table, Izuku leads him back to the living room so he can see when Mitsuki comes down the stairs. He doesn't sit down, too full of nerves to be in one place. You know that client I told you about? The one who told me about this new truck ring in the city over? Kachan huffs.
Get to the point.
Well, I couldn't find any information on the names I came up with, though they did sound familiar to me. I went into their base a few hours ago and tried to take them down, but it was harder than I thought. Izuku trails off near the end, causing Kachan to gesture for him to spit it out. And? Well, I set the place on fire like usual, but then I had to. Izuku has a reason for cutting off this time, his mouth going slack as his eyes catch the picture on the television. Oh wow. Kachan follows his gaze, blinking at the video footage conveniently being shown on the news channel. It's a rerun from the fight, and it's currently showing the spiraling helicopter as it heads towards the ground at a rapid pace. Rabbit is seen clutching the rails of it, only to let go a few moments later. A huge explosion following not long after. Of fucking course they chose to replay the footage right now. There's silence. Izuku risks a glance at his friend, only to see a vein popping out of his skull. Gachan? The teen turns to him, and Izuku is pretty sure he would become a victim of homicide had Mitsuki's voice not rung out from the top of the stairs. Boys, it's dinner time. Get to the table. Izuku meets Kachan's eyes with a sheepish look. It's not what it looked like. I swear. Kachan just grins. But it's all teeth. Oh, I'm gonna die. It turns out that the food is, in fact, as good as it looks. Izuku takes one bite and nearly moans at how delicious it is. The pork practically melts in his mouth, and the eggs and rice balance out the salty taste of the tonkatsu sauce perfectly. This is so good, Auntie. Thank you for the food. Mitsuki looks up at him and smiles, eyes crinkling. You're welcome, kiddo. I was rushing a little bit, but I think it turned out all right. It turned out great, Izuku confirms, and Masaru agrees with him around his own mouthful of pork. The blonde waves with praise, turning to talk to her husband some more about something from work. Izuku glances at Kachan just as the boy starts to speak, his voice low. Everything tastes good when you haven't eaten in days. Huh? Deku. He flashes Izuku a fiery look, telling the boy all he needs to know about what he's referring to. What was that? But Izuku kicks Kachan from under the table before he can reply. I said it's good too. He lies quickly, giving a nervous smile at the two adults across from him. For a few tense moments, everything is silent, but then Mitsuki shrugs and turns back to the conversation with her husband. Not before narrowing her eyes suspiciously at them, though. Izuku breathes out a sigh in relief. Fuck, that was close. Kachan is still glaring at him, and Izuku kicks him again under the table. His friend hisses, but otherwise says nothing. Jesus, does he want to expose me? We've already talked about this. He knows I try to eat when I can. Izuku tries to focus back on his food, continuing to eat as if his life depends on it. Katsudon tastes best hot, so he doesn't want it to get cold. He cleans up the plate in record time and leans back slightly in his chair. He's still hungry. He could go for another portion, but he also doesn't want to eat more than he should. Mitsuki and Masaru are still eating, albeit slowly. They don't look like they're going in for seconds anytime soon, and Kachan... The teen takes a large spoonful from the pan in the middle of the table and drops the food onto Izuku's plate, not saying a word. Huh, I swear he can read my mind. He throws him a quick, grateful look, having not completely forgiven him for the comment a few minutes earlier, and digs in again. So, Mitsuki says suddenly, once everyone is almost finished, it's getting late, Izuku, so why don't you stay the night here? Izuku pauses as 3 pairs of eyes land on him. He gulps down a piece of egg and takes a nervous sip of his soda. I'm not sure Father would like it if I... Nonsense! Mitsuki interrupts, voice bright. It's dark out, and the crime rate around here has been high nowadays. I'd feel better if you stayed with us tonight. Masaru clears his throat, then... You don't have to, of course. It's just a thought. He gives his wife a pointed look. Don't pressure him, Mitsuki. It's his choice. It's fine. Izuku cuts in, not wanting the couple to argue. If it's alright with you guys, I guess I can stay the night. Kachan grunts from his place at the table while Masaru nods in reassurance. Mitsuki claps her hands together. Great, I'm sure Hasashi won't mind since he's never there for you anyways. The entire room seems to drop a few thousand degrees and Izuku winces. Kachan's head snaps up to face him as if to gauge his reaction, and Izuku hears Masaru choke on his food. Mitsuki, that's not... She cuts him off before he can finish telling her off. Oh, come on. You know I'm right. The bastard doesn't give a shit about him, or any of us for that matter. He won't care if Izuku stays the night here. You can't just say that, Masaru says, trying and failing to come up with a good defense. Mitsuki fires back, and Izuku half expects Kacchan to join the fight too, but he just watches his friend with narrowed eyes. The green-haired boy winces. He doesn't like being the cause of one of Mitsuki and Masaru's arguments, even though it happens often enough. He knows it's not really his fault, but still. Izuku waves his hand in front of him as if to fan away the metaphorical flames, garnering both of the adults' attention. "It's okay," he amends. "Father is kind of a jerk sometimes, but I don't think he'll mind this time." Mitsuki brightens up instantly. "Oh, that's good." She stands up and starts to collect the plates. "Well, dessert is in the oven, so stay here while I get it." She leaves the dining room quickly, and Masaru doesn't waste any time as he leans over the table. "Sorry about that," he mutters. "You know how she gets." "I can still hear you." Masaru sighs at his wife's yell, and Izuku hides his grin behind a hand. "It's alright," the boy repeats. "Auntie's right, after all." The dessert, it turns out, is a weird sort of pie filled with chocolate and cream. It doesn't taste bad at all, and so Izuku has to stop himself after his second slice. He helps Masaru with washing the dishes and putting away the leftovers, making small talk along the way. Speaking with the older Bakugo is always calming for him. He's the polar opposite of Mitsuki and Kacchan's, so it was quite a shock to Izuku when he was first introduced to him all those years ago. He still finds it hard to believe that such a quiet man married such a headstrong woman. Masaru is like a river, steady and unbreakable, whilst Mitsuki is like a raging inferno, scouting and disastrous. But after spending so much time with the man, Izuku has come to realize that they both complement each other in their own ways. Izuku doesn't mind talking with him. Masaru is nice to be around. The power his gentle quirk exudes is comforting, almost. So the boy tries to soak it up all he can. Once everything's cleaned up, Masaru ruffles Izuku's hair softly before joining Mitsuki in the living room. Oh, that was nice. Izuku climbs the stairs to Kacchan's bedroom after wishing the couple a good night. A skip in his step now. His happiness, however, depletes as soon as he opens the door. Kacchan tackles him, and Izuku instinctively spins around to throw the boy over his hip. Kacchan grabs his arm and brings him down with him, shoving his face into the carpeted ground.
"I'm gonna kill you, nerd."
"Fuck!" Izuku gasps, a little bit of pain running through him from the movements. "Get off me, Kacchan! I'm injured!"
"Not a chance. You deserve your ass beat for the shit you pulled."
Izuku whines. "That's not my fault. Why can't you?" A harder press to the ground has him shutting up, and he huffs in frustration. He can hear Kacchan's grin as he speaks.
"Just a minute, Deku. I win. I always win. Now say it."
Any other time, and Izuku probably would have pushed his friend some more. He'd make him angry enough to start another fight out of pure pettiness, but right now all Izuku wants to do is sleep. "Fine, you win." Kacchan tuts.
"I don't think I heard you, nerd."
"You always win." Izuku throws the other teen off him and sits up against the bed. "Happy now?"
"You have no idea."
Izuku starts to fix the wrappings on his knee, and the boy can feel his friend's piercing gaze on him. He tries to ignore it, putting his hair up into a small bun to try and distract himself, but it doesn't work. When his skin starts to itch in discomfort, he looks up to meet Kacchan's sour expression. "What?" Kacchan, surprisingly, answers him.
"Are you alright?"
It's clear that he's not talking about his injuries. Izuku feels himself relax. "Yeah, I don't mind it when she talks about him. I'm not gonna start crying at the mention of his name, Kacchan."
"I don't know why you won't just tell them."
He frowns. "About what? My father being the most feared villain alive?" "Yeah, that'd go over real well." Kacchan rolls his eyes.
"I meant about your homelessness, nerd. It would be easier for you if you just told everyone."
"And then I'd be sent to an orphanage, or worse." Izuku stands up and goes to get the emergency night clothes Kacchan keeps under his bed in case he stays over. "Is that what you want to happen?"
"They'd take you in.
The hag already said she'd adopt you in a heartbeat if given the chance. Why won't you? You know why." Izuku's voice is tight, cutting right over his friend.
"I'm already too close to you guys.
I can't risk putting you all in danger like that."
"I'm sorry."
Kacchan snorts.
That's hypocritical, Deku. You could just
Please, just drop it. Maybe it's the look on Izuku's face that does it, or maybe the tone of his voice. But either way, Kacchan does drop it, only after a few moments of hesitance. He always does. He cares about Izuku too much to make him upset, especially when it comes to the topic of his father. The last time he argued with him over this, Izuku nearly had a breakdown. That's probably what would happen now if he kept pushing.
Fine,
Kacchan says, begrudgingly.
But you're telling me about what happened today. In detail, shitface.
So Izuku does. He talks to him about the information his client gave him, telling him how the targets were supposed to be just petty thugs. He tells him how that was a fucking lie, and how he nearly had his kneecaps taken out by a gremlin. He explains how he executed the flawless takedown of the entire base and burnt everything to ashes, and how he'd hitch a ride with the helicopter seen on the news. Kacchan cackles and sneers at the right moment, slowly putting Izuku at ease again. Izuku frowns when he gets to one part, though. The helicopter exploded with the bad guy still inside. He was unconscious. I think I saw him get caught by one of the flying heroes, but still.
That sucks ass,
Kacchan says, not a hint of remorse in his voice. Kacchan! The teen scoffs again.
What? He was a villain. I said good riddance to all of those fuckers.
But he was still a person, Kacchan. Izuku shakes his head. He probably had a family waiting for him. His friend doesn't back down.
Then you did their family a favor. I'm not going to feel bad for a lowlife. They deserved what they got. Besides, you even said he got caught. It's not like he's dead.
Izuku watches Kacchan's face for a moment, trying to decide whether or not he's joking. Finally, the boy sighs. You're insufferable.
Shut your face, nerd. It's already after 9, so go to sleep.
Kacchan flops onto the bed and flicks on his fan, kicking off his slippers in the process. Izuku smirks to himself, settling on his side of the mattress. You act like you're so tough, and yet you still go to bed at 9 every single night like a little kid. A foot lands in his stomach, kicking him off the bed entirely. He just giggles as he lands face down on the carpeted floor. I deserve that. He doesn't bother getting back up. He doesn't like to sleep on beds anyways. They're too soft for him. Izuku rolls onto his back and looks up at the ceiling. Kacchan's light breathing, a white noise beside him. A blanket and pillow are tossed his way, and he mumbles his thanks. As expected, he gets no reply. Today is overall a good day. A nice, hot dinner was just the icing on the cake. It always is, in all fairness. Cooking is fascinating to him, and today made him appreciate it even more. He may have to start it up again. He used to cook a lot, but now he prioritizes certain things over food. He makes his own weapons. He saves up the money he earns for necessities like his phone bill. He needs tech to make his support items. Speaking of which, he has to make more of his pink sludge bombs. He also never really feels hungry a lot, so why waste food if he doesn't need it, right? It's best to save his belongings for better things, but that's not the point. He's full. He's content, and he's just completed another one of his missions. It may have been harder than he thought, but it was a success. He pocketed a lot of the money the gang had stashed in their boxes, so today has been eventful, and all Izuku wants to do is rest. His mind, however, has other ideas. He doesn't actually fall asleep until the moon starts to dip low into the sky, and the early lights of the morning start to filter in through the window. Izuku pretends he wasn't awake for the whole night when Kacchan gets up to go to school. He didn't mean to stay up. Insomnia just has a way of creeping up on you like that. Hello, it's Spirit here, and sorry for literally not posting for 2 weeks. It has been crazy. I needed to go to open houses, decide what school I'm gonna go to next year, and then I got a dog, and that's been crazy. I've been having to deal with my rats as well, because one of them bit the other, and then there was this whole thing going on where I had to take care of him and take him to the vet and stuff. He is all healed now, and luckily he's all better. So it's been very crazy, as well as I need to literally catch up on 2 months worth of schoolwork, because ADHD brain kind of just made me not do work for a very long time, and I now have to pay the consequences. But I've been doing well, and I'm hoping to record once per week and post these more often. So yeah, drink water. If you ever have a headache before falling asleep, go take some Advil. Trust me, it is not worth it to fall asleep on a headache. I woke up with a migraine this morning. Make sure to brush your teeth, make sure to have a shower, make sure you're eating 3 meals a day. 3. Yes, I know, only 3. You can eat 5, you can eat more. I don't care. But be eating. Got it? And with that, I'll see you later, my ghouls. Bye.